So you have been discussing this question: what limits, if any, should be placed on what a democratically elected government can do? And no doubt you've had lots of good thoughts on that already. We thought it would be helpful just to kind of inject some ideas into the discussion of limits that had occurred to us that deserve to be thought about further. And we've come up with a list of 8 particular limits that we thought deserve some further discussion here. So, and it'll be interesting to see how these relate to what you've been coming up with in your own conversations. So you can see them there. The first one is decisions should have to be publicly explained and justified. So that's a very kind of limited limit, if you like. The government can still do whatever it wants, but it has to explain and justify what it's doing. Then B, if you go down on the left-hand side, you get to B, there should be space for public comment and criticism of changes before they happen. So similar to A, but a bit stronger, a bit more going on there. Then we move up to C. Politicians should have to fulfill their manifesto commitments. So that's something that came up at the last weekend and came up in the questions this morning as well. And we've seen there are some advantages and disadvantages of that. Then D, below, big issues should be decided by broad agreement, not just one side imposing its will. So those two ideas, C and D, get at that kind of trade-off that I was talking about just before you were speaking there. They're kind of inconsistent with each other if you think about it. So there's a choice to be made about just where we want the balance to lie. Then E is certain basic rights should be protected. And Michael began to talk about this a little bit this morning, and he'll be back shortly to talk about it some more. F is policymakers should have to operate within agreed standards of good behavior. So we might, for example, want policymakers to be honest. We might want that when they're giving out government contracts, they should not be corrupt. There's a whole range of different standards of good behavior that we might want to think about there. Then we have G, some basic features of the democratic system should be difficult for governments to change. So I mentioned earlier, for example, the idea that maybe we don't want the government just to be able to abolish the Supreme Court, for example, or maybe we do. There's some interesting discussions to be had there. And then finally, H, some big questions should be decided directly by the people rather than by government and parliament. So some matters are already decided by referendums. Perhaps that should not happen. Perhaps there should be more issues decided by referendums. Perhaps there should be other ways in which people can get directly involved in decision making. So those are the 8 kinds of limits that we thought it would be good to explore further. And as Kayla said, we're now going to have 4 speakers, each of whom will talk about 2 of these limits and just explore the arguments around them a little bit further. So here are the 4 speakers. You've already seen Meg, who's on the left, and Michael, who's on the right, with less hair than at the moment. And then the 2 speakers in the middle are Nicola McEwen and Jill Rutter, whom you haven't met before, but will be joining us in just a moment. So firstly, I'm going to hand over to Meg Russell, whom you already know very well. And Meg will be talking about the 2 A and B, the 2 ideas that are on the left of your screen just at the moment. So Meg, over to you.